On a chilly night in Columbus, Ohio, the ugly tuna saloon was alive. The air thrummed with music and laughter as students celebrated the start of spring break. Among them was Brian Schaefer, a 27-year-old medical student with a bright future. He was intelligent, well-liked, and ready for a night out with friends. This celebration, however, would become the beginning of one of the most baffling mysteries in modern American history. The night of March 31, 2006, started like any other. Brian and his friends planned a bar crawl, and their first stop was the Ugly Tuna. It's a place with a quirky name and an even quirkier layout, located on the second floor of a complex, accessible only by a long escalator. At approximately 1:15 a.m., a security camera at the top of that escalator captured Brian Schaefer, his friend William Clint Florence, and Clint's friend Meredith Reed entering the bar. The footage is grainy, but it's unmistakably him. He's seen chatting, looking relaxed. A few moments later, he turns towards the camera, a slight smile on his face. This would be the last clear image ever taken of him. Inside, the night unfolded as you might expect. The bar was packed. The group mingled, had a few drinks, and celebrated the freedom of a week off from their demanding studies. Brian had just completed his exams. This was his reward. He was a second-year medical student at Ohio State University, a promising career ahead of him. Life was good. He was close with his family, especially his father, Randy, following the recent tragic loss of his mother to cancer just a few weeks prior. This spring break was also meant to be a special time. He had a trip planned with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, to Miami. He was supposed to meet her there on Monday, sometime around 1:55 a.m. Security footage shows Brian outside the bar, near the top of the escalator, talking briefly with two young women. He says his goodbyes and casually walks back into the bar. His friends, Clint and Meredith, were getting ready to leave as the bar prepared for its 2 a.m. closing time. They called Brian's phone, trying to find him in the thinning crowd. He didn't answer. They waited, assuming he had perhaps slipped out without them or was talking to someone else. When he didn't appear, they figured he had simply walked home to his nearby apartment, something that wouldn't have been out of character. So, they left without him. But Brian never made it home. The next day, the silence became alarming. Calls to Brian's cell phone went straight to voicemail. On Monday, when he missed his flight to Miami and failed to meet Alexis as planned, panic truly set in. He wasn't the type of person to just disappear. He was responsible, dedicated to his studies, and deeply in love with his girlfriend. In fact, his family and friends believed he was planning to propose to her during their trip. Something was terribly wrong. Brian's father, Randy, filed a missing person report. The police investigation began where Brian was last seen, the Ugly Tuna Saloon, and this is where the mystery deepens into something truly inexplicable. The bar had only one public entrance and exit, that main door at the top of the escalators, monitored by a single security camera. Investigators meticulously reviewed every second of the footage from that night. They saw Brian enter at 1:15 a.m. They saw him step out and re-enter around 1:55 a.m. They saw his friends leave. They saw every other patron and employee leave, but they never saw Brian Schaefer walk out. The building had another potential exit, a service door. This door led out to a different part of the building, near a construction site. Investigators considered this possibility. Could Brian have slipped out that way? The problem was, this exit wasn't for public use. It was typically only used by employees or for deliveries. More importantly, while there was no camera directly on that service door from inside the bar, there were other cameras in the surrounding area. A thorough search of all available footage from the entire complex showed no sign of Brian anywhere. It seemed impossible. He went in, but he did not come out. The search for Brian became a massive effort. Police, aided by hundreds of volunteers, combed through every inch of the area. They searched the bar itself from top to bottom. They searched the construction site next door, fearing he might have fallen into an open pit or become trapped. They used search dogs, checked dumpsters, and scoured nearby buildings and rooftops. They found nothing, not a single trace of him. His car was still parked at his apartment. His wallet, credit cards, and passport were all left behind. His bank accounts remained untouched. His cell phone, for a brief period, pinged a tower about 14 miles away in a suburb called Hilliard, but then it went silent forever. It was as if Brian Schaefer had simply vanished into thin air. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into years, theories swirled. Did he leave the city to start a new life? This seemed unlikely. Why would a man on the cusp of a successful career, deeply in love, and with strong family ties, abandon everything without a word? The recent loss of his mother was a heavy blow, but those close to him said he was grieving but not despondent. He had too much to look forward to. Could he have met with foul play inside the bar? Again, there's no evidence. No one reported any fights, arguments, or disturbances involving Brian. If something had happened, how could someone have removed him from a crowded bar without anyone seeing? And more importantly, without being captured on camera, leaving through either of the two known exits. Police even considered the bizarre idea that he could have disguised himself to leave, perhaps changing clothes with someone. But this, too, seemed far-fetched and led to no credible leads. One of the most tragic figures in this story was Brian's father, Randy Schaefer. He dedicated the rest of his life to finding his son. He worked tirelessly with investigators, maintained a website for tips, and never gave up hope. Tragically, in 2008, Randy was killed in a freak accident when a tree fell on him during a windstorm. He died without ever knowing what happened to Brian. The search for answers was then passed to the wider community of online sleuths and true crime enthusiasts who remained fascinated by this case. The one person who might have had more information, Brian's friend Clint Florence, has been a subject of speculation. He was the last known person to be with Brian. He reportedly was not cooperative with police at first and refused to take a polygraph test, though his lawyer stated he had already told police everything he knew. To be clear, law enforcement has never named him a person of interest, and there is no evidence linking him to the disappearance. He was simply a friend who found himself in the middle of an unimaginable situation. So, what are we left with? We have a video of a man walking into a bar. The video shows everyone else leaving, but it never shows him. There's no body, no crime scene, no motive, and no credible suspects. It defies logic. It's a puzzle with a missing piece that happens to be the entire solution. The ugly tuna saloon has since closed down, but the mystery it holds remains. Today, more than a decade and a half later, the case of Brian Schaefer is as cold as that March night in 2006. All we have is that final haunting image, a young man full of life and promise, walking back into a bar, stepping out of the camera's view and into history as one of America's most chilling and enduring missing person cases. He walked in, but he never walked out. Thank you for watching. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Brian Schaefer, please contact the Columbus Police Department. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into compelling mysteries.